Thank you very much, and good morning to each and every one of you. Welcome to my presentation on next generation agriculture. It is not agriculture for the next generation, or not by the next generation, or of the next generation. It is simply next generation agriculture. You can correlate it with something like in internet, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G, and you can say it next G. So next generation agriculture. And when I talk about it, we talk of technology-driven, smart and molecular agriculture for holistic transformation of the agri-food systems. That's what it is, next generation agriculture. And it all started around 50 years back, when in 1973, Martin Cooper first demonstrated the strength of mobile call, and he made a call in a press conference. And then, of course, several years of research and development went on. In 1983, Motorola first introduced a portable cell phone, and that was the first one. The price was very high, around $4,000 US at that time, 1983, $4,000 US. But even then, the technology became very popular, and the rest is history, as they say. So when we talk of next generation agriculture technologies, we talk of Internet of Things, IoTs, we talk of AI, we talk of machine learning, we talk of robotics, drones, aerial imagery, big data analytics, genomics, phenomics, and all of these new technologies. And the benefits are increasing productivity, improving efficiency of all the inputs, environmental sustainability, cost effectiveness, climate resilience, and an array of all other things. And you can see the popularity. You can see the development. All these numbers are in millions. And probably now the numbers could be even more, and almost on a daily basis, this technology is progressing. But the heart of, or the backbone of all this next generation agriculture is, of course, data. Data of geospatial nature, supply chain data, health, nutrition, consumer behavior data, environmental data, climate data, socioeconomic data, and all of these data, and these are the backbone of next generation agriculture. Now, basically, these five are the major differences of conventional agriculture, what we have been doing till today, and next generation agriculture. In our conventional agriculture, the knowledge is unstructured. We have got knowledge, but not fully structured. In next generation agriculture, we are talking of structured knowledge. In analytics, we use simple database in our traditional or conventional agriculture, but in next gen, we are going to talk about big database. Stress detection visual, which will be now based on some machine. Phenotyping, slow, manual, but now it is high throughput. And of course, management, manual so far, or of course now several new things have come, but now it is going to be sensor-based, machine-used, all these management. And when we go for this next generation agriculture, these technologies have already started being used. It is not that it is totally new, it is already there in practice. But then there are several very potential uses of these technologies. First and foremost is accelerating crop improvement. We have been developing varieties which are climate resilient, which are biofortified and so on. But these technologies, next generation genomics, phenomics, is going to accelerate the development of climate resilient, biofortified varieties. For example, how to position a product. This process also will be accelerated. Just to give you one example, just a few months back, 2 months back rather, ICRISAT has developed and released a variety which is heat tolerant, photoinsensitive, short duration, determinant type with uniform maturity, machine harvestable, and yield is double compared to the conventional varieties, more than 2 tons per hectare. Now, these kinds of products can be developed much accelerated pace with the new generation of technologies. The third aspect could be precision and regenerative agriculture. Whether we talk of judicious use of fertilizer, solar energy-based micro-irrigation, nature-friendly farming, and of course all of these going into eco-regional and regenerative agriculture. And there are several very good examples. One, of course, again by CRISAT in Bundelkhand region, where few thousand hectares of land have been regenerated using some of these new tools and techniques. Value chain development and market access, again, could be easier with all these new technologies. Efficient delivery, which is always a constant. We say extension, but then using these kinds of technologies, our extension, our delivery system is going to be far, far better, more efficient, and of course, quicker. I would just like to give few examples, and mostly, of course, from ICAR and India, and of course, in many other parts of the world, even far better next-gen technologies are also being used. So one is, of course, use of drones, and all of you know that now this is one of the major programs of Government of India, how to use variable rate spraying, stress mapping, and all other kinds of things. Remote sensing-based approach for crop health monitoring, again, not only government, but private organizations have come in a very big way, using these kinds of tools, how crop health can be monitored. Remote sensing-based soil health assessment. Now we need to go to our wet laboratory to analyze organic carbon with Walkden black method, but then using some kinds of sensing tools, we will be able to analyze the soil in a fraction of seconds, and of course, using remote sensing, this can be done much efficiently and of course, quite in large number. Variable rate technology, or VRT, which we call as for different input applications for various kinds of agricultural operations, including spraying of fertilizer, pesticides, and so on. Sensors and IoT-based irrigation for enhanced efficiency. Again, we had a separate session on irrigation. So again, these kinds of technologies, particularly IoT and sensors, could be very, very useful for irrigation to increase its efficiency from 35 to 40%. It can go even up to 80, 90% or so. Disease detection is another very important use. Now, several of these tools, including using AI, is available where a farmer can go to a crop, take a photograph of the plant, and then upload it in the portal, and immediately in a fraction of seconds, the result will come, what is the disease and what kind of control measures it can be taken. And if the answer is not available within the portal, it will be directed to an expert who will go through it and then give back the answer to the particular customer. So this is another very, very beautiful use. Not only in the field of crop, but also in the field of aquaculture, and several of the institutes are using these kinds of IoT and AI tools for precision management of aquaculture, fisheries, and so on. Again, in livestock sector, several tools of these kinds of technologies are possible. These are just one or two examples of how early subclinical mastitis can be detected and it can be cured before the disease claims its problem. Then, of course, there are several very good opportunities and facilities have been developed. One is, of course, Nanaji Degmo's Plant Phenomics Center here in this campus in IARI, where we are using new tools for phenomics and genomics, and, of course, very other uses of that. Hydroponics could be another example, vertical farming, urban farming, and all of these can use, and I've already started using these tools of AI, IoTs, and so on. So these are some of the uses of these. Robotics, of course, in many places, it is being used in a very extensive way. And in this country also, in many other developing countries, this has started coming in, but it has got a very high potential in coming years. Not only for harvesting of a crop, but also post-harvest management, quality monitoring, grading, and this is being very routinely used in many parts of the world. Of course, delivery or extension system, where I find a very big potential of use of these kinds of tools and technologies, so that we will be able to provide real-time crop advisory or agro-advisory to our farmers based on climate, based on soil, based on crop health, and of course, all other kinds of associated information what a farmer needs. But friends, there are challenges. Of course, what I was presenting, all those things, as I said, data is the backbone. But besides data, there are several other things which we really need to provide, we really need to create and strengthen. Then only this next generation or next day agriculture can be available to the farming community of developing countries or least developed countries. Of course, data is still the crucial, availability, accessibility, security, and privacy of data. This is something which will remain at the heart of all this next generation agriculture. There are gaps in technologies, gaps in infrastructure, complexity and skill gaps, not only of researchers, but also of students and farmers. Barriers of economics and adoption barriers, and you know all kinds of barriers whenever you want to go for adapting a technology to any place. Partnership, interoperability, as well as sharing of data and technologies. This remains a big challenge. And of course, finally, policy. Without sound policy, none of these technologies can go outside the research institute. So regulatory policies, ethical issues, and all other kinds of issues need to be handled with very strong and supportive policies. So friends, all of us know up to 1950s, for example, in this country, we had traditional or conventional agriculture. Then, of course, Green Revolution, thanks to Norman Borlaug, Professor Swaminathan, and many of our senior mentors who contributed in a big way for Green Revolution, because of which a country from ship to mouth has now become food surplus. Then, of course, input intensification came in 90s onwards. But what I think that from now onwards, in next 15, 20 years or so, it is going to be agriculture of next generation. So next generation agricultures. Therefore, just to conclude, that demand from agriculture is increasing, challenges are intensifying. In our previous section, Mr. Saigal asked, what is the future? What we should be doing? So instead of challenges, we really need to improve productivity, profitability, as well as sustainability of agriculture. And for that, we need agri-food systems with smart plant, smart technology, smart product, smart market, and of course, smart farmers. And next generation technologies, what I just mentioned very briefly before you, have got potential to make agriculture smart. Of course, it has got its own challenges, it has got its own barriers. And to overcome all those challenges and barriers, our students, scientists, policymakers, and farmers need infrastructure and support to adopt next generation agriculture technologies. With this, I thank each and every one of you for giving me this opportunity and very briefly presenting before you next generation agriculture. Agriculture which is already being adopted by the current generation, and of course, in generations to come, we will be adopting in a much better way, much efficient way, so that agriculture becomes resilient, agriculture becomes productive, it becomes profitable, and of course, it becomes sustainable, as we say, evergreen revolution in the words of Professor M.S. Swaminathan. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you.